Hey there, fellow firefighters and personal growth enthusiasts. Welcome back to another episode of Priority Traffic Podcast, where we bring you inspiring stories and actionable advice to help you level up in all aspects of life. Today, we have a special guest joining us. Put your hands together for Pat Deneau, a fearless firefighter and creative powerhouse. In this thrilling interview, we'll dive deep into the fascinating connections between health, wellness, creativity, and the world of firefighting. Believe it or not, Pat seamlessly blends these amazingly contrasting realms to lead an extraordinary life. Are you ready to join us on this insightful journey? Let's gear up and get started. Welcome to the show, bud.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You bet. You bet. I feel like we've done this before.
We have. Yeah.
Oh, man. So welcome to the show. I really wanted to have you on today to really discuss our connection with music. I've got a profound thing for music, and clearly you do too. We were able to play some guitars before we got started here.
Yeah.
But you know what really brings us together is that fire service connection.
For sure.
That's kind of what led us to crossing paths, and you know, just to get it off the cuff. Can you introduce yourself and give me a little background on your fire stuff?
Yeah, of course. Hello, I'm Pat Deneau of the City Lines and also a career firefighter in a larger city west of Metro Detroit.
Wayne County?
Yeah, west of Wayne County. Yeah,
west of Wayne County.
I've been a career firefighter for quite some time now. I started in the fire service right when I got out of high school. With a city in Oakland County as a paid on call. They paid for all my training and EMT school and all that. And I was a paid on call firefighter while I was in undergraduate school at Wayne State University.
Okay.
And so I got my feet wet and learned about the trade a little bit doing that. And when I graduated from college, I got a career fire job in 2010 in Savannah, Georgia.
Okay.
At the time in Michigan, if you remember 08, 09, 2010, the recession and the economy was terrible. So I started testing anywhere that was hiring, but there were a lot of places like in the Southeast United States.
Sure.
Charleston, Savannah, and et cetera. Atlanta was another big one. Anyway, got on with Savannah and did about 3 years down there and really had a great time. And it was a real big city with 3 battalions and tiller trucks and heavy rescues and bridges and
dude, sounds like a big place.
Yes, high rises and at the time that I was there, it was a fire only job. There's a private EMS thing, so we didn't even respond to EMS calls.
Oh, not even respond?
No, zero. Just fire only.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's changed since then.
Right. The model seems to be updating across the country.
Yeah, which is good because there might be a pretty serious medical emergency that could happen very close to the firehouse, but they wouldn't dispatch us.
Right.
Most of the members at the time were only MFR even.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. So they've got a lot of people up to speed with EMT and stuff down there now.
Nice.
So anyway, cut my teeth there and made my way back to Michigan. Where I was in a career spot at an Oakland County combination department, and I was there about 10 years, and started over again in a larger city in Washtenaw County fairly recently, where our paths have crossed.
Yeah.
And anytime you meet another firefighter that is either into music or plays music,
sure,
you're like, hey,
right.
Hey man.
Hey, there's one more of us.
Yeah. We got some, got something here. So right off the bat, we were able to make that connection, and you kind of find each other,
Absolutely. And it's not a common thing. I would say in my brief stint in the fire service, I have only come across a handful of people, 2 at my previous employment, and none that I'm aware of where we currently are that like to throw down on a 6-string and are inclined.
Yeah, if they can, they're not talking about it.
Yeah, if you're out there, guys, do not hesitate. If you guys want to collaborate across the country, or if you're in our, if you work with us and you're listening, quit hiding.
Right.
Bring your guitar.
Right. But yeah, so I grew up in Michigan. I spent most of my youth in Petoskey area up north.
Yeah.
And
would that be where a lot of your initial desire to serve and be a firefighter was cultivated?
Yeah. So in the small little community that we lived in Walloon Lake, my dad and grandpa were both on the volunteer and fire department there.
Okay, cool.
And just a lot of memories of being in the firehouse there and going to the parades, and they had a pop machine that if you just bumped it just right,
it spit out 7.
Yeah.
Orange pops.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I was real inspired by my dad's love for the fire service.
Okay.
And it wasn't until high school when I got involved with the Explorer program at the local community we lived in at the time.
Okay.
That I really began to understand that this is you can make this a career pursuit, and so that led to the paid on call thing, and we've lived mostly in Metro Detroit, but short stint in Grand Rapids actually, and then a short couple years down in Savannah, and my wife Krista and I have a 3-year-old daughter named Isla.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and she is just the light of my life and been a source of inspiration on all kinds of levels.
Sure.
That kind of brings us up to speed at the moment.
So were you playing guitar this whole time? Like, were you musically inclined, or did you just fall off a ladder one day and learn how to do it?
Yeah. So I've always kind of dabbled in music. I started in middle school playing saxophone.
Dude, me too. That oddly enough, that's what I started on.
It's a gateway instrument.
It must. Watch out for those saxophones. You're gonna have a musician.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So yeah, I started off with that, and that was okay. But at some point, you're carrying the saxophone everywhere. The case.
Yeah, it's just whacking into your leg all day long.
Just, it doesn't fit into your locker. Yeah. It's hard getting it on the school bus.
You got to explain to kids, what's that?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I play the saxophone.
Yeah. It's like not that cool. I mean, it could be cool. Bruce Springsteen had a lot of saxophone.
But you do know he didn't play the saxophone?
I didn't know that at the time.
Thanks for that material.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Bob Seger had a lot of saxophone solos in his songs, but Bob Seger didn't play the saxophone either. So,
that must have shattered your reality.
Tough. Yeah, it was tough. Yeah. I'm like, well, how do I guess I got to sing and play guitar then.
I got to let this thing go.
Right. I can distinctly remember walking by the choir room one day with my big stupid saxophone case. And there are a lot of girls in the choir singing.
Okay.
And I thought, well, there's not a lot of girls where I'm at in my row as a 5th chair sax player.
You were a 5th chair.
It was not good.
No.
I just did not have the ability. I could maybe creep into 4th every once in a while, but it was.
I was what? I think I started out at like 3rd or 4th chair sax, and then I got put as 2nd chair tenor sax.
Oh,
there was only 2 though.
Okay, right. Yeah, there's probably not a ton of tenors. Yeah. So anyway, I enrolled in the choir. I got out of the band. I was done with that. Got into the choir. I was like one of like 4 dudes, and then 20 female singers, and that worked out pretty well.
Yeah, odds are good there.
Yeah, and really didn't overly commit to being a vocalist.
Okay.
I was just in there because I liked music, and the choir director was cool. And I was basically a serial underachiever in all things school.
Fair enough.
Yeah, not real big on the books. I've always had trouble learning and reading, and arithmetic is it's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've in recent years as a firefighter, I've gotten really good at measuring cups.
Measuring cups.
Like, like I used to have such a hard time, like a quarter cup of this.
Oh, yeah.
Like if it wasn't, if you just had a 1 cup measure, because all those things go missing in the firehouse, right? It's like, this one only measured a cup. How do I get a third? And I'm very good at that
eyeball
now.
it.
Yeah, I'm very good at eyeballing that stuff now.
That's like 6 cups.
Right. Yeah. Right. Anyway, I'm in the choir. I guess I'm doing well enough to not be kicked out. And
you're not causing a ruckus.
Yeah. And the only thing that could make that better is instead of carrying a saxophone around, is you're in the choir and you're carrying around a guitar.
Okay.
So I begged my parents day in and day out,
right,
for who knows how long, about getting a guitar, and I stacked up a lot of house chores and things of that nature.
Sure.
As a 9th grader, and I got my first guitar, which was a Fender Strat knockoff.
Okay.
It just had
not like a replica, but like just a copy.
Yeah, just a copy. We got it at Wonderland Music, and it was just a Crestwood. Just said Crestwood. I still have it.
Nice.
It's in my basement studio in the closet.
Heck yeah.
Every once in a while I bust it out and just kind of play on it.
How's it sound?
Terrible.
Oh,
yeah, really bad.
As you would suspect.
Yeah, like the neck is warped and the frets are kind of popping off, and I've had thoughts about getting her tuned up, and
that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, as a project. Maybe I'll get it fixed up and give it to my daughter, know.
Or just, ditch all the stuff, keep the body in the neck and go through it real good.
New pickups.
That'd
and
be
things.
cool.
Yeah. It's in the closet, and it's something I've been thinking about, but I just got to make the time,
Of course.
Yep.
Of course. So you're going through choir. Is that where you learn how to really sing and get dialed in on that type of stuff?
Yeah. And I will tell this to just about anybody. I don't wake up in the morning and go, I'm Pat Deneau, the singer.
Right.
I am a singer. I just
no, I get it.
I don't feel like a vocalist or somebody who would be, I know I'm not the greatest singer. I know I'm not the greatest guitar player.
Sure.
And I am for certain not the best firefighter to ever put on a pair of bunker gear. But being in the choir taught me the fundamentals. And our choir director at Northville High School, 2 stories about her.
Oh, good.
Yeah. An incredibly patient and nice woman. She would book trips for us to go out of state and sing at places. So we took one trip to Montreal.
Oh, nice.
Took the train from Windsor, I believe, all the way up to Montreal, and we sang in some really old 1800s cathedrals.
Really?
And we sang some really cool old gospel music and stuff.
Were the acoustics pretty
insane?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just to hear, your voice and your work with your peers in these really big cathedrals was just as a high schooler. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's probably mind blowing.
Yeah, I wish I could go back there now and do that. So we went to Montreal one year, and we went to New York City another year. We went all over Metro Detroit, doing choir competitions where you do sight reading and things like that. And we always won. We were always in the top. Yeah. And I just saw her fairly recently. She lives in my neighborhood. She's retired now. This was probably about a year ago.
Okay.
And it was the same day that we had a single on the radio. My group, the City Lions.
Yeah.
We had a song on.
You've been on the radio.
Yes.
Nice. How many times?
More than I can count at this point.
Multiple
actually.
songs at this point?
Yeah. More than I can count, honestly.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is one of the first times one of our singles was on WDET 1019 out of Detroit.
Oh,
and
nice.
We cranked it up at home in the living room. We're dancing and with our daughter, and it was just such a cool moment to hear that. And I'm out in the front yard with my daughter later in that evening, and I saw Mrs. Price walking her dog.
Okay.
I haven't seen this woman in 20 some years.
Right.
I'm like, Mrs. Price. I'm like, oh my God, it's me, Pat Deneau.
Yeah.
With the City Lions. We had a song on the radio today. She's like, huh? I'm like, it's me, Pat. And she's like, oh, okay. I'm like, oh, I was in your choir in 2003.
Right.
And she's like, oh, gosh, that's so nice.
And so long ago.
Yeah, I'm like, no, we were on the radio today. And she's like, have a good one. I'm like, ugh.
Cringe.
I've seen her several times since then. Yeah. And we've connected, and she's
Nice.
and just incredible. So I've made sure to make mention to her that every time I see her, I'm like, hey, you probably didn't know it at the time.
Right.
And I didn't know it either, because I don't know what was going on. Like, just doing the worst that I possibly could.
Right.
Like, just no effort whatsoever.
Right.
But it's all like paying off now. So thank you.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's cool to be able to do that. But
that is nice.
yeah. Anyway, get the guitar going. Tony Hawk Pro Skater's huge.
Yeah, you're growing up. You're in high school.
Yep. Skateboarding every opportunity that I can.
Nice.
Listen to punk rock, Green Day, and Bad Religion, and stuff out of Southern California, and trying to play like that, and barely even know how to strum a G chord. And I said, well, it's time to start a band.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, we don't have time. This has to happen now. Started a band called Paperbag Lunchbox.
Interesting name.
Yes. I still have some shirts from that era that we had printed up.
Really?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
You got to send me a photo of one of those
I will.
things.
They are really bad, but one day when I hit it big, they're going to be worth some money. So I'm hanging on to them.
Nice.
Yeah. Paperbag Lunchbox was the first group. Nobody knew how to play anything. Our bass player rented a bass from a local music shop.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you could do that.
I didn't know either. He did not want to play bass.
No?
No. And I'm like, listen, the only way you're going to be in this group is if you play the bass.
And you got to rent one.
Yeah. And he's like, well, I'm certainly not buying one.
Right. And I want to be in the band, so.
Yeah, it's kind of like a hockey goalie.
Oh, gosh.
So,
yeah. Nobody really wants to do it.
Not typically. But then there's always, I guess, the weird guy that's like, absolutely.
Yeah,
like,
I'm in.
Yeah, galvanized rubber, 100 miles an hour at my face.
Right. Sign me up.
Yeah, it's my calling. Anyway, we started a band. We started playing like house parties.
Yeah.
And then you get to a point where you start making some money somehow. We all had little part-time. Some guys worked at the video store. Some guys worked at restaurants, whatever.
Video store.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Like, I am that old where
I know.
I actually worked at a Blockbuster video for a short time. And I remember when I first started there, part of my gig was rewinding the videos. There was
this little thing.
Yeah, there's like a bank of them, and you just unbox all these things and you throw them in and you rewind all of them. Yeah, and then they'd automatically pop up. Anyway,
they must have got that specific piece of equipment probably went out of business pretty quick.
Right.
Whatever happened to that company?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's like such a niche thing.
Wow. Probably make toasters now.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, we're doing house parties. We're renting out Legion halls. We're piecemealing equipment to make PA systems, and then you build up from there, and you start going out to Ann Arbor, and you're playing frat houses.
Yeah.
And you're performing maybe some cover songs and some of your originals for just masses of inebriated
college
undergraduate
folks.
People, and that was incredibly fun, and you learn a lot about performing in environments like that. And oddly enough, I'm now going into a lot of those fraternities as a professional firefighter.
That it's definitely full circle.
It's weird. Yeah, I'm like, I used to play right here.
Right.
Like, this is where I plugged my guitar in over there, and then some guy threw up on my amp.
And now your feet stick to the floor just the same way they used to.
Yep.
That's so gross.
Yep. And like, it's funny too. You go and like, these guys are like, "Oh my God, we're so sorry we set off the."
Yeah.
Oh my, sir. I'm just like, just get out of the way. Like, why are you awake?
Right.
You guys need to shut it down.
You smoke outside, you dummy.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody cares. It's Ann Arbor.
Yeah. It's 3 a.m. Shut it down.
Yeah.
Okay. I was there, man. I was there doing it.
You were doing it.
Yeah. So yeah, all of that has somehow coalesced into this point now where we have 2 records out. My group, the City Lions, has 2 albums out.
Yeah.
We just released a new one in the spring called Analog Memories, and we're playing a release show for that album on August 5th at the Lager House down in Corktown, Detroit.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I I don't know. It's music has been a constant in my life, whether it's lugging around the saxophone,
Right. Or lugging around a guitar to a podcast.
Yep.
Some guy's house.
Yep. It's it has been with me for the entire ride of my fire career.
Yeah.
I just feel so fortunate to have an ability and have it like a practice, like something that I can continue to get better at and build on. And
Perfect. Well, let's take a quick break. We'll have you play a song for us.
Sure.
And we'll pick up the rest of this conversation here in a little bit.
Sounds good.
All right, take it away, Pat. Thanks for listening to Priority Traffic Podcast. It's our pleasure to introduce Pat Deneau with the City Lines, playing his song, Erased.
What would you do if the devil came and traded hope for all you knew? Life for a way of life. So happy Thanksgiving. Still the church bells ring, one for every unmarked grave. They tried to put culture in the ground, and now they say move on, but the wound's too deep. Only truth can heal the truth we speak. We won't be erased. We won't be erased. We won't be I actually learned a lot in the choir because now that we're in high school now, the choir teacher was really big on sight reading.
Right.
And I'm still learning how to read music, and that really helped me begin writing my own music because I understood how to read music at that point.
So did choir help you develop like the singing skills and ish?
Yeah, it did. It did because, you do warm-ups and you are learning very basic songs at that point, but you're taking those basics and then you start singing in your car, and then you can kind of expound upon that. But I remember being in the choir, and I was probably a subpar singer and even worse student.
Sure.
Just sort of class clown mentality, like 24/7, and I'm in the choir and I'm like, well, this is fine. But what would be even cooler is if I had a guitar.
Right. I need a guitar.
Yeah. Like, I don't like just standing there singing. I just wasn't doing it.
Sure.
So probably the 9th grade, I remember, asking my parents, like, how do I have to get a guitar. If I don't get a guitar, I will die. Like, there's no way moving forward in any of this unless there is electricity in my hands.
Yeah. Turn it up to 10.
Yeah. Yep. And
what was your first guitar?
My first guitar was I still have it. It's in my closet in the studio downstairs. Was a Strat knockoff, like a Fender knockoff.
Yeah.
And it was just called a Crestwood.
Okay.
It was red with a white pickguard. And we went to Wonderland Music in Novi, which I guess there are a lot of those around back in the 60s and 70s.
Okay.
And it was like a combo. You get this Strat or this Crestwood Strat, and it came with like a little PV amp. And I remember the guy put it in my hands, give it a strum, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't even know like anything,
no.
But yeah, just like, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, this is the one.
Like, did you know how to make a chord shape?
No clue. Yeah, just like pressing like all of them down at once, and then
it sounds beautiful.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, for sure.
This is it.
Yeah, for sure. This has the right tone. Had a whammy bar,
right? Just bend the crap out of it.
Yep. And so that was it. I think, I don't know what, I had to do some sort of household chores to
Pay it
yeah,
off or
yeah. A lot
whatever.
of shoveling, a lot of cutting the grass. And anyway, get the guitar, got some guitar. My grandma Ina bought me some guitar lessons.
Okay.
And I went to maybe 5 or 6 and I said, I've had enough. I'm not doing it. I'm done with you, teacher guy.
Yeah, I got this.
Yeah, I know what I need to do. And yeah, so shortly thereafter, started my first band, started
Nice.
writing songs.
What was the name?
Paper Bag Lunchbox.
Paper Bag Lunchbox.
Yep.
That sounds fun.
Paper Bag Lunchbox. I don't know, like, is it a double entendre? I don't know what
I don't even know.
Yeah, like you either have a paper bag for lunch or you have the lunchbox. Why is it both? I don't know, but yeah,
interesting.
We went by PBLB. That was our street name.
That's funny. So what grade you're in? 10th grade, 9th grade when you start this band?
Yeah, this is the end of 9th grade.
Okay. So how did you acquire all your gear? Like as a 9th grader? Because you would have probably had to mow all the lawns.
Yeah. Yep. There was a lot of that. A lot of grass cutting. So my first job was at a steakhouse as a busboy.
Okay.
And I bussed tables, and I don't know what the minimum wage was at the time. It was like $3.
Okay.
An hour.
Right.
And that
not much.
No, it was bad. But they fed me there, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked away with probably like $50 a day. I don't even know. It was probably less than that.
Right.
But you save up enough, and you start accruing stuff. And like, I remember in high school, there were a lot of other teen bands.
Mm-hmm.
And so you kind of team up with other groups and like, hey, you guys want to do a show?
Mm-hmm.
If so, can you bring your amp and you bring your PA, and we've got just enough to make a drum set. And
I get that.
Yeah. So we kind of all started teaming up and doing like basement
parties.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because you could get all the gear and not everybody had to bring their own.
Nope.
And
yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. There's a communal effect.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we started doing that. Then we started getting to a point where we could rent out the local Legion Hall.
Nice.
They would let us like use the hall, like move all the tables and everything. Yeah. We'd set up a PA in there and do shows there.
Cool.
And yeah, it was super fun. And then you kind of build off of that and started going out to Ann Arbor and playing the frat houses.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Which is so bizarre. Because
you're young at that point,
yeah,
right?
Oh yeah. We're not old enough to be seeing and experiencing what was going on in those places.
Right. How funny.
Sticky floors and mattresses up against the walls.
Dude, those places are a wild experience.
Yeah. I think what's really bizarre is that I'm now going back to those places as a professional firefighter.
Right.
I'm like, I used to play guitar right here.
Yeah.
And then, there's a guy face down on the ground, after you're passed out, stepping over them to go reset a fire alarm or whatever.
Yeah.
And not much has changed. A lot of those frats have been the same since probably the 50s,
Yeah, that's crazy to me. And that's cool that you get to, in a roundabout way, you got to be there before, right?
Yeah.
And now you're back.
Now I'm back.
How cool is that?
Yeah. Yeah. I should try to book a gig at one of those.
Dude, that'd be pretty funny.
Yeah. Who's this old guy?
I used to play here when I was in 9th grade.
Yeah, you weren't even born yet.
So you're playing gigs in the local frat houses.
Yep.
And then what happens next?
Yeah, we'd go to Windsor sometimes too and play over there, which was cool. They had a lot of like teen clubs. And so by that point, getting into college, I was doing the paid on call fire thing. And I kind of, everybody goes their separate ways and kind of put the guitar down for a number of years. Like I would pick it up and just pick on some stuff around the house, but I really wasn't totally interested or had the time to write music or, book shows or anything. And
sure.
So I really kind of dug in on, learning the trade as a firefighter and going through school at Wayne State. And
right. And that's where you met your wife.
Yep.
Right.
Met my wife, and we dated for a number of years and then made our way down to Savannah. And, I brought my guitars with me, but again, now we're into 2010 to 2013, probably didn't write a single song during any of those years.
So in Savannah, were you pretty busy, you think?
Yeah. So I had to work a second job there.
Okay.
Like constantly, because the starting pay was pretty low, and this and that and the other. So I cut grass. I did furniture delivery for like a local furniture store that hired firefighters. So like I don't know. I don't know. Nothing was striking me, I guess, to write tunes. And it wasn't until, honestly, probably a couple of years ago, just before my daughter was born. She's 3 now, so maybe about 4 years ago. That's when I all of a sudden had a stream of songs come to me.
Really? Do you remember the first song you wrote?
Oh man, that's a great question.
Or like, what's your most memorable first song?
Yeah.
If you don't remember the first one.
Right. I do remember. Okay, so the first song that I wrote as like a reestablished songwriter was a song called Fortunes Sold. And it was actually about my experience in Savannah.
Okay.
So there was a fortune teller like house on my way to the engine house in Savannah that I would drive by.
Yeah.
And this lady had this cool like neon sign, and it would just kind of like flash. Fortunes told, it said.
Okay.
I remember like sitting at a red light going to work in the morning. It's dark, and there's a Spanish moss hanging from the trees, and there's this light, fortunes told.
Like,
yeah. And like, it's just silent, like there's nothing happening. It's early in the morning. I'm just sitting there and like look over at this thing like, should pop in there sometime, like
that's interesting.
Savannah's kind of spooky. And,
sure.
I don't know. That sign just always caught my eye. I thought it was cool. It was in this really old rickety house that was kind of like sideways, So when I picked the guitar back up, I remember I just strumming on an E chord like Johnny Cash, like Folsom Prison kind of thing. And then I would throw an F sharp over that. And it, for some reason in that chord progression, reminded me of the sign. It reminded me of Savannah. It reminded me of being so incredibly hot all the time. And I kind of just wrote about my commute, like my commute to the firehouse and my commute home. I didn't write about firefighting. I didn't write about anything like that. But I just remember, like, I just wanted to write about the drive and the way that what it looked like and felt like going over the causeways and the swaying trees. And Fortune Sold is what I titled it. And the idea was like, you could go in and get your fortune told to you, or you can just let it unfold as it does.
Right. You can go red pill or blue pill.
Yeah. That's kind of the thought, because it's like, if let's say this lady's for real and she tells you what it is, or maybe she's not for real at all, but she gives you an idea of what your future is going to look like. Are you going to try to like manifest that, or, you know what I mean?
Dude, for real.
Yeah. Like this lady said, this is going to happen to me. So like,
right. Are you going to fulfill that?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's kind of what that song was about. It's on our first record, and it ended up making it on the album. It's kind of a B-side. We did some cool like lap steel on it. So it's got some twang to it, and
that is. Did you play it?
I didn't. We found
That's
a
quite
guy.
the instrument.
Yeah, they are super cool. There's a guy in Nashville that really liked the tune. We sent it to him, and he helped us out. He recorded it down at his studio in Nashville, and sent up the files to us, and we mixed it in and at the studio in Detroit here.
Cool.
Yeah,
dude, that is so neat. So when it comes to writing songs, like, what would you? How do you go about your process? Like, so you're like, oh, I got this, and then you stumbled upon this chord. Like, like, do you mind digging into that a little bit?
Yeah. There is no process.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's just a way that it happens.
Yeah. What I can tell you though is that I do try to block out time where I can go into my little studio at home. Like I'll put it on the calendar, or I'll write myself a reminder.
Nice.
Like, hey,
so you're making time.
Yeah. Tuesday is open. Like Tuesday from 3 to 4, just go in and practice and record some ideas.
Cool.
So I do that sometimes, but then other times I'm just in the kitchen cutting vegetables or making coffee, and I'm like, there's an idea, and then I got to find a pen and a pad, and I'll just write down a thought. Sometimes it just starts with a thought.
Sure.
A thought that I've been having a lot recently is about all this wildfire smoke.
Yeah.
coming in from Canada, you can't look outside without noticing it.
Yeah, I went for a run today, and it's like you can feel it, but you can see it.
Yeah, you can see it. Yeah,
it's not very clear out.
No, and like, so I've been thinking about that lately, and like sometimes I'll have a, this sort of inner dialogue, like, what's going on with all this smoke?
Yeah,
Like,
what is this?
Yeah, what is this? This is new.
Mm-hmm.
And then, connecting dots, like, what does this mean right now? What does it mean in the future? Is it, is there a larger meaning?
Yeah.
Like,
what could it have been? Like, has this ever happened before? Even?
Yeah. Like Native Americans would send out smoke signals to communicate.
Yeah.
Is there a connection there? So that's kind of where at least the initial, the incipient stage,
nice little fire science,
of a song often starts with me. So I'm kind of working through this wildfire smoke theme, and I don't know where it's gonna land, but there will likely be a song. Like, I'm gonna chisel away at some of these concepts we're talking about, and there will be a song that'll come out of that. But oftentimes it will be just me picking up my guitar, whether my daughter's sitting on the floor playing with her Barbies, or we're out in the yard, my dog's running around chasing squirrels, and I'm just
strumming.
And then sometimes it literally just comes to you, like just a melody that just sounds nice. And you can find me on my back deck, and my neighbors can probably hear me working through stuff.
Cool.
And I often just use my phone app, I'll just, write down a couple lines, and then like the chord changes that correspond with the lines. And I'll put that away maybe for a week or two. I won't even think about it.
Right.
And then I'll revisit it another time and go, oh, this was kind of cool. I wonder if I could build upon that today,
Do you find that when you set it down for a little bit, you are able to come back to it? Remember the nuance of the chord strumming pattern or whatever?
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, this is exactly how I want it to go. And other times I'm like, what is this?
So I'm not alone.
Yeah. I'm like, what? Like, I don't even know. Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Who wrote this?
Yeah. But what I can tell you too, is sometimes, like, there's a song that we did on the last record called Southern Rain, that I started years ago.
Okay.
The concept started years ago.
Yeah.
And the basic chord progressions were there. Put that one away, kind of forgot about it, went in a different direction. And then as I had more life experiences, things came more to the forefront that were in the same theme of that tune. And so I was able to connect some dots from where I was a couple of years ago to where I was at the time, and create a narrative that wove those two stories together.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that was the first time that ever happened.
Yeah. So you pulled something off the back shelf, and it made sense.
It did.
That's cool.
Yeah. Wish that would happen more, because it makes for some interesting songs.
Yeah, absolutely. Because now you're putting pieces of the past, like from a completely different version of you, and you're bringing it forward into the future, today's present.
Yeah.
So that's a very interesting way of seeing it, where you're weaving two pieces of yourself together.
Yeah, because
that were created by two different people.
In a way, I mean, you're always growing, you're always evolving.
Right.
I can tell you on the fire side of things, I have quite a bit of experience deploying hose and doing engine company stuff.
Sure.
Even in my suburban job, just in the 2-man company model, we didn't do truck work.
Right.
There just weren't enough people and time to do ventilation and things like that on a bread and butter house fire. So like, you're just pulling hose and advancing lines, and hopefully you get to it before it gets out of control. Well, just fairly recently, doing some drills and some training where we're at now, and the boss says, "How do you prefer to do your shoulder carries for the? How do you prefer to do your ladder carries?"
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and I'm like on my shoulder, like
Right. What?
yeah, like I don't know,
Like what style? Yeah.
yeah. I'm like
High shoulder, low
yeah,
shoulder.
yeah. I'm like yeah. I don't know. The IFSTA book when I went through the academy in 2006 said to do it here. That's how I do it. And he's like, that's not going to work. I'm like,
Oh,
I'm like, all right, cool. What do I need to do then to make it work?
Right.
You know, because if you're doing that shoulder care, you got to have two people, and you know, you can kind of get it, you know, your shoulder on the beam, I guess, but you can't deploy it like that.
Right.
You can get it off the rack on the truck, but anyway, the point that I'm getting at is the boss pulled me aside and said, hey, you should learn the high shoulder carry because
Right.
if you're going to ride on this ladder truck, we're going to do truck work. And I don't have time to be carrying ladders around with you because I got to do my 360 and check for victims and
Sure.
take command. So he's like, we just went out and practiced high shoulder carries. Just throw it on the shoulder, throw the butt in the ground and get up on the building.
Right.
And that like, it just blew my mind. Like I'd never practiced that.
Yeah. Interesting.
Because even in Savannah, in the big city, I was just in an engine.
Right.
You know, we would
Okay.
throw ladders, but
Okay.
usually, you know, in a 4-man company, 2 guys could jump off and grab a ladder. And,
Right. For sure.
So anyway, that really opened my eyes. There was immediate growth there. And I was almost like automatically like a different firefighter.
Yeah.
After him.
Upgrade.
Yeah. Having just pulled me aside and shown me that.
Sure.
The same thing happens with songwriting. The same thing happens with physical fitness.
Yeah.
The same thing happens with
cooking. I mean, relationships.
Yeah.
Anything really.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, being the rookie.
So you're this is your third cycle through the rookie year probation stuff.
It is. I do not recommend it to anyone.
No. Well, I mean, at least on your third time through, you got your first one out of the way.
Yeah.
Your second one was like, well, I've done this once already. So now your third rep is pretty standard stuff here.
I feel, once again, I feel blessed that I've had a lot of life experience. I've had a lot of ups and downs. I'm not a perfect man.
Right.
And so,
I feel that
has humbled me. You know what I mean? Like Chris and I have been through a lot as a married couple, and we've lived in other places and seen other things. And coming to the firehouse as a rookie again at almost 40, I'm coming to the table with a humbled approach.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of bosses, you know, help me along because of that.
Of course.
And and so I owe a lot to the lieutenants and captains and stuff thus far for being like, hey, thanks for, you know, nobody thanked me, you know, outright, but like the idea that I've come in and had to retool my brain to be able to relearn things and take in new information.
Yeah, you have to you have to be open-minded to all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Even though you've already done it multiple ways.
Yeah. It's almost like none of those other ways necessarily they've helped me get to where I'm at right now. They've helped me get to this stage as a third year rookie, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
But ultimately it's helped me come in and understand how to clean the slate and absorb and fall in line with how it needs to be done. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
When you're younger, it's harder to do that.
Yeah, kind of like an Etch-a-Sketch, right?
Yes. Just shake it up.
Shake it up.
Yeah.
Start over.
Yeah. High shoulder carry. Let's go.
Dude, for real.
You know what I mean? Like,
I do.
There's no other way.
And I totally get what you're saying, because from fire department to fire department, there's trucks, there's hoses, there's ladders, there's water.
Yeah.
Right? There's people, there's the same gear. It's kind of like taco salad. There's whether you make it from chips on the bottom or meat on the bottom, it's all the same ingredients.
Yeah.
It might just be put together different.
Sure.
And I think that being adaptable, having that adaptability is super important when you start again at a new department.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I guess as we're sitting here talking, I am drawing parallels right now between that adaptability in the fire service and the adaptability playing in a band.
Dude, So now that you mention it, I think perhaps there is quite the congruence, or like you said, parallel dimension of a band and a engine company, or
There is.
just like the firehouse crew,
Yeah.
right? The people,
Yeah.
because there's a dynamic there where the end result is obviously doing your job well and going home and being safe and living and having a good relationship, but also putting out good music.
Yeah.
Right. Creating that same, it's almost the same.
It is. It is. And like, when you're at the firehouse, you're living and working and you're on top of several other people, several hours at a time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Luckily, you know, we get an opportunity to kind of break away from each other at the firehouse and, you know, clear our minds a little bit. But in a band setting, you know, there are different personality types, and in our group, we are running as a 5-piece right now.
Okay.
So, everybody's on the same page because we all want the same goal, which is to put on a good live performance or make a good record. Just like firemen, they're all on the same page because they want to get the fire out and help the citizen or whatever. But yeah, within that, you have to find your role. There's always going to be a leader type, right?
And you need one.
Yeah.
Right. Every group needs a leader.
Yep. And some leaders lead by telling people directly what to do. Others just lead by example. I guess I am the default leader guy because I'm writing the songs, and
people are turning to you for
But my leadership style is a little bit more like maybe like Steve Yzerman style. Like he was
captain of the Red Wings.
Yeah, he was real quiet. He wasn't flashy. He wasn't outspoken. He just went out and did it.
Right, he showed up.
Yep. If they needed a goal, number 19's on the ice and it's going to go in the back of the net.
Yeah.
And I've read a lot about him over the years, and
he's amazing.
Yeah, and just people would say in the locker room, like if Stevie stood up and went to the center of the locker room to speak, people listened immediately.
Really?
Because like he didn't often say a lot. It was just like you just watched him and went, all right, he's putting in the work on the off days, and his workouts are better than mine. And
right.
So that's the way I try to lead with the band stuff. Like
I like it.
I do my own practice a lot, and when I come in, I try to be to the studio or rehearsal room. I just try to be well rehearsed and put together.
Sure.
I like to direct a little bit. Like, hey, remember that one part? Like, let's make sure we lock in on that.
Yeah. And that's just communication, right?
Yeah.
Like, being on stage, playing, practicing. Like, hey, you look at the drummer for this, you got to hit this spot, or, there's a fill here or a change. I think just a little nod or a little eye contact.
There's a lot of that.
Goes a long way.
Yeah,
for sure.
It does. And
because you can't stop and say, hey, right? You can't just stop what you're doing.
No. I think one of the coolest parts about playing live is like when you get off the beaten path a little bit, and you can kind of start ad-libbing and winging it a little bit.
Yeah.
And like everybody just knows. Like you don't have to say, hey, let's take this one around 3 or 4 more times. Like it just sort of happens because it feels right.
Yeah.
And then like sometimes it's just a glance. Like if I'm up at the mic and I'm like kind of ready to take it to the next part, like all I have to do is kind of look like this.
Yeah.
The drummer sees that. The drummer looks at the lead guitar player. The lead guitar player looks at the bass player. The bass player is looking at the ceiling.
Hey, now. Right. He's winking at the cute girl in front of him.
Right. And
probably not, but whatever.
Well, sure.
He's just a bass player.
Yeah. And, they don't get a lot of love. But,
no, we don't.
Yeah. But I appreciate you.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I love that feeling.
Yeah.
You can't create it out of thin air. It takes work and practice, and it takes a lot of time in the rehearsal room to get there. And it's like this intangible thing. Like you can't like grab a hold of the synergy of a good rock band.
Right. Just like you can't grab the synergy of a well-rehearsed, cohesive engine company.
You're right.
Right.
You're right.
It's there. You can't touch it, but you can see it and it happens.
Yeah. And in the fire department, like guys and gals know like, oh man, cool. Engine 4 is here. Those guys are going to tear it up.
They're good.
Yeah.
They're good.
4 is here. Watch out.
Yeah, right.
Okay, cool. Tower's going to the roof. Those are the tower guys. They know.
Yeah, dude. When when you hear that kind of radio traffic and you know that your battalion and you know that your crew is doing things, you're like your stress level instantly comes down.
It
Like,
does.
I've got tower on the roof. I got engine 4, doing what they're doing. And you're inside or wherever you're at working with your crew.
Yeah.
It's a well-oiled machine sometimes. And I mean, some days it's like, what the hell? What the hell happened?
Well,
but
trades and overtime and who knows? Yeah, but
everything happens.
Yeah, but I think that's an interesting point. That like when you're in an engine company or a fire company that really practices together, people take notice of that.
Yeah, and you can see it.
You can see it. Yeah.
And it parallels a band. Like you can tell when a band is well rehearsed, and you can tell when the individual parts are rehearsing and practicing at home and come into rehearsal well rehearsed, and it shows up in their stage performance, right?
It does.
It's flawless. It's not flawless, but it's authentic, it's real.
Yeah.
And when things come off the train or the tracks, it doesn't implode.
Right.
They manage to like do that tuck and roll and land on their feet.
Yeah. There is a level of that like I kind of like to have available like during live performances. Like sometimes if you're just on the edge of crashing and burning,
right,
it makes for a more exciting performance.
It's a fine line for sure.
Yeah. Because if you over rehearse, then maybe it's, I don't know.
It seems mechanical a little bit.
Yeah, a little robotic. So there's you have to somehow harness that little bit of danger. Sometimes I try to insert chaos into a live set, and like
what does that look like?
I don't sometimes like I'll just kind of holler something out like, hey, let's do it again,
right.
or I'm not done, like
right, give me 4 more bars.
Or maybe I'll go off like the main melody of a line, and I'll take it like in an alternative melody that we normally do, and everybody's like, where are you going?
Where is he going?
Yeah, why are you doing? Do not do this, Pat. Stop.
He's doing it again.
He's doing it, and he's not going to know how to resolve it.
Right
now, everybody's just exposed. But then somehow we write it. Just
you write
back in the tracks. Yeah,
nice.
And that's those are those magical moments that there's a little bit of madness involved, and
magical moments are pretty fun, especially on stage, man. I've been a part of a lot of cool feelings, and playing in front of a couple hundred people is quite the experience. How many people have you played in front of? Like, what's your biggest audience?
We just played the Blind Pig at the end of May, and there was the head count was just over 400.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a packed house.
It was. I was incredibly nervous.
Were you really?
Yeah. We were the opening group on this gig.
Okay.
And usually people
you're warming them up.
Yeah. Usually people are still kind of filing in, or they're back at the bar, hanging out, and there's a lot of chatter. Not this gig.
No.
We had our stuff set up, ahead of time for sound check, and the place was packed. Like it was packed all the way from the back door to the front of the stage.
Sure, because you're typically playing for those 25 people who get to the front of the stage for the main event.
Yeah.
But they're just there the whole time because they want their spot.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just kind of, they've.
And then your mom or your friend.
Yeah. Which,
whoever.
Yeah, they're important too, for sure. But yeah, this.
They're like, what time do you guys go on?
Yeah. And then they leave right when you're done. And not this gig. This gig was very well promoted.
Awesome.
The Blind Pig is an incredible venue to play.
Yeah.
It has a lot of history. And
yeah, it does.
Like Nirvana played there. And
I remember that.
Other.
I know that I wasn't there.
Yeah. Many other good bands. But anyway, so we were opening for a band from Petoskey, where I grew up, actually.
Heck yeah.
And
full circle.
Yeah, I don't know them personally. They're a little bit younger than us, but called the Michigan Rattlers. And they have a great local draw. And I remember, we had our guitars and stuff on stage, and everything was ready to go. And the sound guy, clicked his flashlight a couple times to let us know it's time.
Yeah.
And we're walking up on the stage, and people are like cheering and clapping.
Heck
and I'm like, do not do this to me right now.
Do they know where the opening is?
Yeah.
What are they doing?
But it gets you pumped up.
Yeah, dude.
it it brought a level of energy to the set, and it was the most fun gig that I've ever played.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a total high point, and it was just incredibly rewarding. You see people bopping along and having a good time, and like that's all you want to do as a musician is you just want to create art or music that it resonates with people.
I mean, literally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
do.
I do.
And there's something about that connection where somebody's tapping their foot or bobbing their head, and they are in sync with what you're doing, and this is literally just something that you created while in the kitchen,
Yeah,
chopping an onion,
dude, for real. And
you know.
I don't think there's anything more satisfying, like selling an album, selling a T-shirt or whatever, but being on stage and looking out there and seeing somebody, like you said, bobbing along with a giant smile on their face.
Yeah,
like just having a good time to something that you created.
Yeah,
is that is like very, very deep, I think.
Yeah, it's an odd connection to have because it's very
satisfying?
Yeah, it's satisfying. It's very intimate in a way.
Yeah.
Even though you're in a room with 400 people, there is a level of like you want to go talk to these people.
Yeah, it's like a connection. Because that song or whatever, that specific song could be it could have been a very raw moment in your life.
Yeah.
Where you were going through some stuff, and now you see someone out there who's like digging it, and you're like, man, it's just a very profound experience.
It is. Once again, I keep saying this, but I'm very blessed and grateful
of course,
that these things are happening.
Mm-hmm.
It feels so fulfilling, and you have to practice gratefulness. Like you don't necessarily just wake up in the morning and be like, I'm grateful.
Right.
I'm grateful for my family. And like you are, but you have to say it, and you have to feel it. And I have to remind myself about that sometimes, like as I'm just going about my daily whatever, I'm like, God, I'm just so grateful that I got to play a concert once even. I played one concert and people enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And like that kind of fills up your heart a little bit,
It does.
And it doesn't take much. All you have to do is like say it in your head and you're like, hey man, I'm pretty lucky.
Yeah. And I mean, we have at our fire department, we have, it's kind of a joke between me and a couple other guys, and not even a joke. It's actually profoundly impactful, but I'm just glad to be here. Right. Like,
well, sure.
I'm just grateful to be here. And sometimes it's like, I'm just glad to be here because it's that time of day.
Yeah.
But other days you're like, man, I'm really grateful to be here with you gentlemen. And, whatever comes our way, I'm just glad to be working today with you.
Yeah.
And practicing gratitude and having a gratitude mindset is super important. A, to like mental health and wellness, but B, just remembering that what you have is enough. And when you have enough, more things tend to come, which is the super odd thing about it. When you're not seeking, it just shows up.
Right.
But the harder you grasp it, trying to have more, the more elusive it becomes.
It does.
And that's like some spiritual stuff, but I mean,
it's spirituality keeps you grounded.
It sure does. Yeah.
Having, PMA, positive mental attitude, and practicing gratitude on a regular basis.
Yeah.
It's something that I'm still working on.
It's a practice, right?
It is a practice, and it's almost kind of like how I've said that I'll make myself a reminder to get in the studio and practice or to finish a song or whatever. It's almost like you could probably put a reminder in your phone, like, yo, 1:00 on Wednesday, have a cup of coffee and just write down the stuff that feels good. Like that would probably be good.
That might be good. I'm just gonna say, write that down. I mean, that is a great piece of advice that I will take, and I think we should all consider just taking time. And the phone reminder is a great idea, where you just set an alarm every day, or maybe a couple times a day, or however that looks for you, and carve out 5 minutes to sit down with your coffee or your drink or whatever it is, and have a couple deep breaths and just
It's very simple.
Reflect on what you're grateful for, and if you write it down and you got a journal, I mean,
Yeah.
that's another step into that realm of creating an abundance mindset, or that positive attitude.
If you start writing stuff down in a journal, and then you go get a guitar, now you're a songwriter.
Now you have material,
right,
and an instrument.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
That's one thing I wanted to touch on with this visit today. Was that
man. Send it.
Yeah, with firefighters, we don't often. I don't want to talk about, like, this isn't like we need to talk about our feelings more or whatever, but we need to talk about our feelings a little more.
Right.
I ain't got a problem with that.
Right. Me either.
It's
for real.
Because what happens is, and I've fallen victim to this.
Yeah.
You're going about your daily stuff. You go to work, you come home, you go to work,
Just getting the rigmarole.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what fire department you're on. Doesn't matter what job you do, actually. This could be factory work. This could be sometimes just driving in my car on the way home, I'll just turn the radio off.
Mm-hmm.
I need no sound right now.
Right, I just want to hear my tires hum.
Yeah. And
you get that white line to swamp.
Yeah. And you take a couple deep breaths and it automatically clears the slate in a way.
Sure.
And when your slate is clear, you're often better suited to get into a positive mindset.
Yeah.
And in a positive mindset, you are more capable of accomplishing goals.
Yeah.
And what I'm getting at is, like, with my creative outlet with the guitar and songwriting and stuff like that, I think other firefighters might really like to do that. Maybe there are other firefighters who have an instrument, but they're not
talking about it.
They're not talking about it, or maybe it's tucked away in a closet.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to connect with those folks.
Yeah.
And because it's cool, because there's it is a really strong way to blow off steam.
Yeah, it's a really good outlet. It's a really good pressure relief valve.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be said about, like we talked about, creating something.
Yeah.
Right? You're creating something. It's appealing to your senses. You're building hand-eye coordination. Your neural networks in your brain are doing things that are new.
They're firing, you know?
And you likely have to learn. Like, you are where you are with the guitar, but if you learn something that stretches your ability, now you're creating new things within your brain.
Yeah. And to go back to what we were talking about earlier, like a lot of our brothers and sisters in the trades, they are probably getting the same effect that I'm talking about with the instrument, right? Like,
I would say,
if you learn a new skill in your respective trade,
right?
It's like you're unlocking something, and that makes you feel good. You're like,
yeah.
Oh man, I've always wanted to do grout, and man, this old guy taught me how to do it, and like, I'm just so excited to be able to do that and make some money doing it, or do it for my own house or whatever. What I found with the guitar is, like, fairly recently, I'm like, I need to get better at finger picking.
Okay.
I always just take the pick and just
James Hetfield, two fingers.
Right. Like, that's how I learned, but I want to learn a more classical approach.
Sure.
So every once in a while I'll pull up a YouTube video and watch some guy on the internet do it, right. And I'm like, nope, I can't do this.
You gotta grow your fingernails.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is I try to push myself.
Yeah.
And
stretch a little.
You stretch a little bit, and it helps you grow, and it makes you feel like you're achieving something, and something that you can pass on to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very fulfilling.
I think, perhaps what you're saying is it's kind of, I'm noticing that it's kind of like the scenario where you are a third time probationary or a rookie, right? You're not technically, in the scheme of things, I wouldn't say you're a rookie. Like, you're a rookie at a department first, right? I get that.
Yeah.
But zoom out a little bit. 13 years experience. That's not necessarily a rookie. It's not your first day, first career, first job.
Yeah.
But you're able to sit down and say, well, I'm not very good at this, or let's just say you are good at this, but you have to show up to this new department and pretend to not be very good at it because you're trying to ease into this new department. You can't show up and say, I know how to do all this stuff. Just let's do it. I know everything.
Yeah.
So you have to set aside that ego and you have to be willing to say, okay, I'm a beginner.
Yeah.
With finger picking.
Right.
How do I want to go fast. I want to play this super hard song, right? Well, you can't necessarily do that. So you're kind of embracing the beginner's mind, which we've had a conversation on. But you're
right. Yeah.
just embracing the idea that I'm going to be a beginner with this technique.
Yeah. Okay. I like that a lot. You can be a beginner again at any point in your life with anything.
And I think you should try to do that a lot.
Yeah. It's hard. Right. It's a challenge. It's uncomfortable. It makes you want to squirm. And, but ultimately, if you're interested in growth and you're interested in moving forward, those squirmy situations are what forces growth.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was talking to a guy, Josh Chase. We just talked last week, and it's about applying intentional adversity on yourself. Like, so you're not a good finger picker.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Now I'm going to immerse myself in finger picking.
Yep.
To intentionally expose myself to this new thing.
Yeah.
To get squirmy.
Yep.
In hopes of.
Yeah.
Maybe not mastering it immediately, but updating and upgrading your skills and abilities. Again, paralleling fire service. Like,
big time.
I didn't realize how much, and maybe it's just learning a technique or learning something that you're not good at, and that's the broad thing.
Yeah.
But how much being a musician parallels being a firefighter.
It does.
And maybe it's just anything.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I like that we can apply it to the fire service.
Absolutely.
Because the fire service is like its own thing. I mean, it's a skilled trade. It's a sworn job, right? You're sworn
it's a service. It's a duty thing.
Yeah, it's a duty. It is like many other jobs, I guess. Like, my dad was a skilled tradesman, and he worked on a factory floor, kind of in a crew of 5 or 6 other guys printing things, right?
Yeah.
So maybe they're kind of like an engine company in a way, because one guy, feeds the paper in, the other guy mixes the ink.
They all kind of have a role.
Yeah, so you could say there's some similarities between that and firehouse type thing, but with the music, I think the biggest connection that I've found is that there is nonverbal communication that once you get good and you practice and you dig in, you can just operate without ever even having to say a whole lot.
Sure. Like second nature almost.
Second nature.
Yeah.
Second nature.
It becomes intuitive. Kind of.
That's what it is. There is a level of intuitive force that happens in both things. Going back to the high shoulder carry and the boss that said, hey, you need to know how to do this.
Right.
That was not an intuitive thing for me.
Right. You didn't know what you didn't know.
I didn't know. I didn't know. It was a shame that I didn't know.
Sure.
But now I know. And like, I can't even picture doing a low shoulder or whatever, the firefighter 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even picture doing that now.
Right.
As soon as I pull that ladder off the back of that ladder truck, we're going high and we're moving. And it's the same thing with being on stage with the group. Like, you begin to establish a way that you do things, and there's a flow to it, and you just get in the flow. And
there's a lot to be said for having an awareness of something, but until that day, like you were saying, your boss pulled you aside and said, hey man, we're going to have to update the way you're doing this ladder carry because this isn't the same place it was. Resources are different.
Yeah.
So we're going to adjust your tactic here, but you just had no real awareness of it.
Yeah, that's true.
But no fault of your own, right?
Yeah.
You were immersed in that procedure was fulfilling and likely being successful in the environment that it
Yeah.
was. So it wasn't wrong. It was probably ideal.
Yeah.
You know?
Worked. Yeah. It worked for
It worked.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yep.
Updating into that new shoulder carry is great, but now you've got two options.
Right.
Right?
True. Yeah. Yeah. And so the high shoulder carry is me learning finger picking.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And the low shoulder, however you want to call it, was Billy Joe Armstrong, Green Day.
Right. Power chords.
Power chord. Yeah.
Down picking.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we could go all day on these parallels.
I really think it could be made, but I mean, one of the really big points is just that having this outlet, having this creative opportunity to be creative and express, thoughts, ideas, concepts, write in a journal, write on a guitar, build stuff with your hands, create.
Yeah.
I think there's something super powerful about that.
Yeah.
But one thing I did want to move into kind of is, like, I see those shoes and I love them first off. But what drew my eye to them was, to me, that looks like what I would say Native American-esque.
Yes.
Like that's so what's up with those, man?
Yeah. Yeah. So
they're Vans, they're badass.
Yep, they're Vans. As I told you, as I was getting into music, I was into skateboarding and extreme sports and snowboarding and things like that in my youth. So I've always been drawn to Vans because of that. I even wear a pair of blacked out Vans on duty.
I noticed. They're pretty cool.
Thank you. Yeah. I just heard of a Tigers pitcher that just got some custom Vans cleats made.
No way.
Yeah, I wanted to look him up. I haven't seen him yet, but
interesting.
Yeah, he's the first pitcher in the MLB to have Vans cleats. But yeah. So anyway,
that's cool.
Yeah. So listen, I'm almost 40 years old. I'm not hopping in a half pipe
right
at this point in my life, but I still appreciate what skateboarding has done for me.
Sure,
it has the same effect as learning a new trade in the fire service or learning new skills on the guitar. Skateboarding is an art in and of itself. Learning new tricks and expanding upon that. That's my connection to the Vans. This is my way of sort of staying connected to my youth. The Southwestern design.
Okay, that's the word I was looking for.
On here is like a New Mexico kind of color scheme. You can buy these through Vans on their website, but I wear these because my mom is Native American.
Okay.
My sister and I are also Native American through her, and we are members of the Sioux tribe of Chippewa Indians in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan.
Oh, that's amazing.
In the Upper Peninsula.
Yeah.
So my mom grew up there in the Sioux, and her ancestors come from Sugar Island, which is a huge island between Sioux, Ontario, and Sioux, Michigan.
Gotcha.
So I've been going up there ever since I was a kid to see my grandparents, my aunts and uncles. My mom is one of 7 other siblings.
Really?
There's a lot of aunts and uncles that have spread out all over the United States at this point. But this is kind of my homage to my mom and our Native heritage. It's something that I've been working to explore.
Yeah.
I grew up in Petoskey, as we were talking. And there are Native American folks there that are in Petoskey as well. But I grew up not necessarily right next to the reservation or like connected to the tribe physically.
A little bit detached.
Yeah, a little bit of a detachment. A word that you will hear a lot is colonialism and generational trauma. Unfortunately, what happens with a lot of Native families and what happened in America in the 1950s and the 1960s, like when my mom was born and her generation of Indians, was that, you know what, it's just better if we kind of blend in at this point.
Right.
Right. Let's just
assimilate.
Yeah. Like we don't really need to be talking about all this stuff. Whether,
whether that was a good or bad idea.
I think that maybe Native parents at the time in America were thinking that was a good way to protect their families and protect their children.
For sure.
Go into the city and just assimilate. And through that, traditions and culture is lost.
Right. Right.
Not any fault to my mother's or my grandparents. It's not like they were withholding
Right.
tribal cultures or information or language or whatever, but it was just one of those sort of things like, yeah, we're Indian. What do you want to know about it?
Right.
Like, well, like,
Oh,
spearfishing. You ever do that? Like, yeah.
right. Yeah. What's that mean?
Yeah. Like, yeah. My grandma used to, from the canoe. Like,
That's crazy.
yeah. Like, okay, tell me more about that. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
Let's talk about that.
yeah. Like, can I do that? Like,
Yeah.
But like, it just, as the country evolved and knowing what we know now about what happened to natives being sent out west
Yeah.
and separated from their families, and assimilated and all that, I could see why in the 50s and 60s, native folks were like, okay, like zip it. Like,
Right.
we don't need to.
Yeah. I mean, they weren't being treated ideally.
No.
Right? There was a lot of stuff happening.
Yeah.
That was probably atrocity level.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, we have a song on our newest record that just came out.
What's the name of
that? The record's called Analog Memories.
Okay.
And the song is called Erased.
Okay.
And I wrote it. I happened to be driving home from work one morning on M14, and on my commute home, the sun is just like right on, like the M14. It's like you're driving directly into it.
Yeah.
Especially in the fall, and you can't see anything. You got the visor down and sunglasses, and you're just like,
jeez.
There's a story on the radio. This is last fall.
Okay.
About mass graves being found in northern Canada.
Yeah. Yes.
On the sites of
that school.
Yeah. These are called residential schools.
Okay.
And they're run by the Catholic Church.
Yep. So, I remember this.
Gnarly story.
Mm-hmm.
It's they are finding more and more since then.
Mm-hmm.
But the first kind of breakthrough on the story was that thousands of native, indigenous, as they are called in Canada, children were sent to these residential schools, and they were run by the Catholic Church, and these kids would go in there and they'd get their hair cut off, and they weren't allowed to speak Ojibwe or whatever their native language was to their region. They were taught to speak English. They were taught to, the Bible was the correct form of spirituality, et cetera, et cetera. And anyway, they found these mass graves where these children that maybe didn't comply with the nuns or whatever were
discarded.
Yep, they're just discarded like trash.
What? That's awful. So erased,
and it just struck me. It just struck a nerve, because although my family wasn't necessarily affected directly by that, this is only like 1 or 2 generations away from my mom.
Right.
And my mom is from Sault Ste. Marie, very close to Canada. And so this would have been maybe her grandparents that could have been sent.
Sure.
And I don't know. It's just,
that's hard to swallow.
It is. And I think even now to this day, there's still a mistreatment to Native folks.
Sure.
We talk about pipelines going through the Dakotas.
Yeah. Yep.
Native the Indians didn't necessarily want to be out in the Dakotas. They were sent there to go live on these reservations to get out of Cleveland and Detroit and Indianapolis as the Western push happened. So the U.S. is pushing west, and they're saying, hey, why don't you hit the trail, go west of the Mississippi River. We will not bother you. We are never going to go out there.
Yeah, we don't need anything out there. It's so far.
You're going to love it.
Yeah.
But like, area is terrible.
Yeah.
There's nothing to farm. There's no, I guess there's buffalo, but
sure, but it's not ideal. It's not going to be a very easy move.
No, and they
don't want to.
Right. And so there are treaties that were made, and this and that and the other, and these treaties have been broken 100 times over.
Right.
And even as recently as a couple of years ago, private industry is like, how you doing? We're going to put a pipeline right through here. So you guys need to
Right. Disperse.
Yeah. You get, oh, this is your burial ground. Sorry.
Well, we're going to bury this pipe here.
Yeah. We need to move some oil or natural gas or whatever through here.
Yeah.
And
wow.
Yeah, I was incredibly inspired by watching the protesters fight against that, because I don't know, you got to fight for something in this life, and
yeah, it's not always what you stand against. It's like, what are you going to stand for?
Yeah, and I don't know. It's so the shoes. My heart is connected.
Yeah, you can tell. I can see that.
Yeah. And so these are things that I'm gonna begin explaining to my daughter as she grows up a little bit more, that she too has Native blood in her veins, and what does that mean for her? What does that mean for our family? I personally haven't had any struggles because of being Native American.
Sure.
I just haven't. And, And there's something about that too. If you go around saying, "Hey, I'm Native American," well, it's like, oh man, okay, well, a common question is in the state of Michigan, and I don't know if you know this, but oftentimes when you say, "Oh yeah, I'm Native American," my mom's Native, like, "Oh, so you get casino money?"
I haven't heard it, but knowing what I do know about being up north and Petoskey and like the Turtle Beach and all that stuff,
Bay Mills,
that makes sense to me.
Yeah,
that is a very less than compassionate way to go about saying it. But that the fact that happens doesn't surprise me.
It does. Yeah, it does happen, and that doesn't necessarily strike me in any way.
Right? Maybe it's not offensive.
I mean, to some it is.
Sure.
To some it is.
I can see that.
Doesn't necessarily, but I try to work with those questions by providing information.
Sure.
And so over the years, I have gotten that question a lot. "Oh, so you're Indian? Wow. You must get a fat check every month from Mount Pleasant or wherever, right?"
Right.
And I'm like, "Oh, no, you don't just get at least our tribe. There are many tribes in Michigan.
Right.
Some tribes do get that.
Okay.
Our tribe does not. We don't just get a check every month.
Right.
Especially being out of the service area.
Okay.
So if you live within the service area in Sault Ste. Marie, you are granted certain privileges.
Gotcha.
And there's assistance programs and things like that.
Okay.
I live in Metro Detroit. I'm not involved with any of that, which is fine. Unfortunately, I don't need that. But what I was going to say was that due to the amount of Native blood that I have qualified for assistance with college.
Okay.
And things like that.
Yeah.
And because of that, I probably would not have gone to a 4-year university had I not.
I could see that.
Had the tribe not kicked in and helped out with that.
Sure.
There was an agreement with Central Michigan University, the Chippewas.
Yeah. Yep.
That is a big time Native area. They made an agreement with the Indians in that area that to use that the logo and the name.
Yep.
That there was what's called a tuition waiver. So they teamed up with the local tribe.
Nice.
And the tribe said, "Sure, you can use the name, this and that and the other. But if you guys do this, any Indian in the state of Michigan that wants to go to a state university will be allowed what's called a tuition waiver."
Yeah.
And so it's almost like there is no tuition. And what it does is it gives Native American folks in impoverished areas an opportunity to go to Central or
get additional schooling,
Lake Superior or where.
Cool.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's amazing.
And this kind of goes into the topic of like the Cleveland Indians logo and things like that.
Yeah, seems to be pretty popular now, where they're either figuring out a new logo or they're finding a way to keep it.
Yeah. So I'm not totally well versed on the Cleveland Indians thing. I've had people ask me, "Does that logo offend you?"
Right.
And I'm like, no, but I can see how it's an old caricature.
Right.
The red-faced drunken Indian hollering in the battlefield type thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was a cartoon.
Yeah,
right?
It's a cartoon. Okay. What if it was the Cleveland Chippewas and there's a local Chippewa tribe in that area? and maybe that local tribe could benefit somehow
Sure.
from that logo being, okay, well, maybe that's a better solution. What was the other one? The Washington Redskins, they changed, and I don't want to get too much into this sort of like woke culture versus not. And
right.
What are we going to do? Change everything? I don't know. They elected to change it because Redskin isn't necessarily if you were walking down the street and you saw 100% Native American man walking down the street, coming home from work, and you said, "What's up, Redskin?"
Right.
You wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't say that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So, all right, well, if you wouldn't say that, if you and a Native American person wouldn't want to be called that, well, then maybe we need to think about changing that name.
Yeah.
And
Updating as culture evolves, right? We're evolving, right? Like just like learning how to play something new on the guitar, learning a new technique in the firehouse. Culturally, on the big scheme, like the general consensus, America, then the globe, but things are changing. We're growing. We're interpreting things different than we used to, which is completely okay, and it's probably more essential than we know. To evolve.
Yeah, and I think the evolution on the treatment of Native Americans, anything, is a step in the right direction.
Sure, I would say.
Yeah. I think in general, if you polled most Americans and said, "Hey, what do you think about what happened to the natives?" I think most people would probably say, that probably wasn't very good.
Yeah, no good.
It just wasn't.
No,
and if you think otherwise, well then, when you need to take a deeper look at history. There's always going to be the argument like, well, it was a battle and they lost.
Well,
right? You know what I mean? There's like that sort of mentality, but like, there's some coexistence, right? And so we could learn a lot from Native peoples.
I would say
the way they take care of the land, the way they.
It's very inspiring to look at the way of life that they used to have.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it is. And the way one thing that resonated with me a lot was just the way they connected with Earth.
Yeah,
and Mother Nature and the mother.
Yes, like our feet are on this ground right now. We are connected to Mother Earth. I rarely think about that.
Right.
You know what I mean? I rarely think about the fact that like my feet are planted firmly on this earth, and something that I do think about a lot of times in this talk about the Catholic Church and the mistreatment of Indians, the Mother Mary, the image of the Virgin Mary.
Yeah.
And she's pure, and she has her blue gown on, and her hair's covered, and she's nurturing. And when you see that image, you're like, that's the mother of Jesus, and thank God for her because she raised the Savior.
Right.
Well, I'd love to see an image of the Mother Mary, but maybe she's a Native woman, and she's coming from the water or the earth.
Yeah.
And it's the same concept.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
This nurturing caretaker that we have to protect in a way. And my daughter has this book about Native American peoples, and there's one of the pages has a picture of the earth, and it has all the animals that you might find on the earth.
Yeah.
And they're in a circle around it, and it just says, "We are all connected."
Yeah, dude, for real.
And it's just cool to see her. Like, oh, there's a penguin and the buffalo and an eagle and this and that. And it's we're all connected because we share the earth. We need the water, we need the air, we need the trees to succeed, to give us the oxygen.
Yeah, we need all of the predators and prey animals from the top to the bottom.
Yeah.
Like, it's an ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
Like we rely on the balance of the ecosystem. And I thought one thing, when they put those wolves back into Yellowstone.
Oh yeah.
Or when they lost them, and then they showed how the ecosystem changed.
Right.
And it's just as simple as removing or adding things to the big thing that starts to throw things out of balance. And it's a really super big topic, and it can get kind of deep
Sure.
pretty quick.
Yeah. But the notion here is that the native peoples understood that.
Right.
They lived
Right.
they lived on this land where we are right now.
Right.
Probably.
They cooperated. They
Yes,
coexisted.
They coexisted in the ecosystem, and they took care of the earth, and the earth took care of them. And I find that incredibly inspiring, and I'm often trying to find ways to, connect to, like, I just want to go in the woods sometimes.
Right, dude.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's super helpful, actually.
Yeah. Like, I just got to get in the trees and, because in our day-to-day stuff, you're in traffic and.
Well, we're in buildings. We got all these fake lights everywhere.
Yeah. Like,
you're not getting a real breeze.
No, like, I just need to go hike and make, feel every step on the earth. And, that's, I need to make more time to do that. I think that would help inform my songwriting. It'd probably help me be better to interact with in the firehouse,
Sure.
Yeah, because it sort of...
It decompresses. It's calming. They call it nature bathing, and it's definitely a technique. And there's, I can't think of the name for it, but in the Asian American or Asian culture, there's a term for the same exact thing, and it's really profound. What spending time in nature, in trees, under trees, near trees, barefooted, near big bodies of water, like big bodies of water, like lakes that you can't see across.
Right.
They do something to us that we don't quite have pinned down.
Sure.
But I would imagine that Native Americans, Indians, in their day-to-day, they probably knew and appreciated it intrinsically without having to read a book about it.
Right.
But
yeah. I mean, Indians always had camps along large bodies of water, Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, even Walled Lake in the Novi area in Metro Detroit was a big Indian settlement.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Very quick side story there. There were Indians there at the foot of Walled Lake.
Okay.
They buried their dead in a kind of cemetery just south of the physical lake, probably less than a quarter mile. Fast forward to the 1950s, they built an amusement park, a very large amusement park on that site.
Oh, really?
And you ask any Metro Detroit, boomer Metro Detroiter, they'll remember going out to Walled Lake, from the city to go on it was like the local Cedar Point.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, that amusement park burned down hard. Like,
really?
like in the 70s. And, it's like this sort of poltergeisty kind of thing, they sort of cleared any remnants of native imprint and built this huge amusement park. There's a casino and bathhouse and all this stuff. And the whole thing just burned down. And I always just kind of thought there was like a level of irony there, you know?
For sure.
Yeah, like, I don't know, maybe if you built a casino and you called it, I forget what the local tribe was, but maybe it had some sort of Amish or something.
Right.
It was just
on top of their stuff.
Yeah, just right on top.
It's a shame that kind of stuff happens, and it happens. It still happens to this day, right? There's so many cultural issues. It's kind of pervasive. It's hard to put your thumb on it, but on a positive note, how would you say your heritage has influenced your songwriting?
So that is a great question. And it's subconsciously informed my songwriting probably since I was a teenager, but I had never really fully understood it.
Right.
Well, our clan, in tribes, there are smaller clans.
Okay.
Of tribes. So like Chippewa Indian, you could be a Chippewa Indian in Mount Pleasant. You could be a Chippewa Indian in Minnesota,
Gotcha.
Sault Ste. Marie, or, but within that are smaller groupings, and our clan are known to be storytellers.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Didn't know that till fairly recently.
Really? And here you are writing songs.
There it is. So I've always enjoyed telling stories, whether they're stories of my own experiences or creating characters of people that I've met, like taking somebody that I've worked with, or taking somebody that I've played music with, or
Yeah.
whatever, and creating sort of a caricature out of them and making a story about them. I would say that I'm carrying on the storytelling tradition.
I would say
through song. I do kind of an alternative rock thing, and that's just my way of doing it.
It's very catchy.
Thank you. Yeah,
it's clean and it's groovy, and I appreciate it and I like it. It's not something like it, until I had met you and heard your music. It's not something I would have had in my catalog.
Sure, yeah.
But now it's like, well, I know this guy, and this is really good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
yeah. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how to play traditional native drums. You know, like I don't have any of that. But
not yet.
Yeah, maybe I will. Yeah.
Maybe.
But yeah, so what I'm trying to do is just carry on our tradition through storytelling, and
good.
Yeah. It's, and like I said, I've been writing about Native issues.
Yeah.
And I think I actually have a couple songs where I'm talking about my bloodstream and being connected to the earth and things like that, and it just finds its way in. I don't necessarily set up like, I'm going to write a Native piece today. It's just sort of, it's just in there.
It just comes out of you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, good, man. So what is your new album? Real quick, give me a rundown on that.
I'm Pat with the City Lines. I sing and play guitar with the group, and we just came out with a new album called Analog Memories this past spring. It's a collection of songs that are story and narrative driven, and some upbeat alternative rock, pop rock tempos. We have our record release show coming up on Saturday, August 5th at the Lager House in Corktown, Detroit, which is in an awesome room.
Yeah.
And I would say the epicenter of indie rock in Detroit. And we're playing with Olivia Schotterfer, who's opening the gig, our friends in Blind Liars, and Twin Deer. And we have some limited edition hand printed show posters that'll be available at the door.
Those are super nice.
Yeah, thank you. So get there early if you want to get one of those. We only got a handful. And please check out our record on Spotify or wherever you stream music. And drop me a line and let me know what you think about it. I'm super proud of the work, and it's just incredibly fun to be floating music out there and connecting with people, and appreciate everyone tuning in.
Dude, that's awesome. I can't wait. As we close this episode of Priority Traffic Podcast, I hope you learned something new and valuable and can apply something in your daily life. Remember, prioritizing your health and wellness is crucial for overall well-being and quality of life. Engaging in creative outlets and hobbies can offer a therapeutic escape and contribute to personal growth and self-discovery. So why not step towards personal growth today and try out a new hobby or creative outlet? A big thanks goes out to Pat Deneau for taking the time to come discuss his passion for music and firefighting. Don't forget to check out Pat's band, The City Lines, on Saturday, August 5th at the Lager House in Detroit, Michigan, as they celebrate the release of their new album, Analog Memories. Doors open at 7 and tickets are just $10. Thanks again for tuning in, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate everyone listening, and don't forget, we're humans by chance and firefighters by choice. Stay well, my friends. And if you're still hanging on, here's Pat Deneau of the City Lines with one last song. Thanks again, Pat. This song is called East Jordan Iron Works.
We were in Midtown, back before they had deemed it safe, in the cast corridor. Our folks called it a dangerous place, and I can picture his face right now, smiling through crooked teeth. He had his flashlight in our eyes on the dimly lit sad street. Most of my heart is beating to the sound of nostalgic nights in that empty downtown. Under flickering lights, we watch the city breathing out. Sitting out on a curb, I look down and red East Jordan Ironworks. Well, God knows what we were up to. We had done it a million times, someone else better drive. We'll follow Woodward up to the city lines. And before I can let it go, I've a laugh thinking about my friends. Man, we were so in it back then. Memorizing maps and where the sidewalks crack. Most of my heart is beating to the sound of nostalgic nights in that empty downtown, under flickering lights. We watch the city breathing out. Sitting out on a curve, I look down and red East Jordan Ironworks. Most of my heart beating to the sound. Nostalgic nights in that empty downtown. Under flickering lights, we watch the sea breathe in and out. I'm sitting on a curb, I look down and red East, but in Ironworks. Check the rear view. Shut off in blue. The scene went dark on Alexandrian Avenue. Might have went different. Silver spoon, suburban luck. If I were born again, wonder where I might end up.